What's going on, guys? Welcome to Dolphins coverage here on the Basement Sports Network. I am Kai Chen Chisholm. To my right is Anthony. To his right is JMV. My right looking at the screen, your left looking at the screen, I guess, but or whatever, which way. Below us is Nando, and then to his right it is 416J. I just say J. We are here for some Dolphins content to show and I guess talk about everything happening within the world because I guess there's a lot of Dolphins content happening. But before we get to that, there's a few things. One, plagiarism is bad. Never plagiarize, kids. Two, we are sponsored by Simple Health Advisors. You can go over there. It is the primary sponsor here of the Basement Sports Network. That is CFIA, Simple Health Advisors. You know, you need some good insurance. They have good insurance. Don't make it harder on yourself than it needs to be. They'll get everything done for you. They'll make it easy. You can give them a call at 321-345-7738, as you can see on the screen, or you can email them at jpew@simplehealthadvisors.com. So thank you so much for them. Boys, how we feeling? First preseason game. Skylar's the limit, as some people might copy, but how we feeling?
Man, you salty. I know that's how you feeling.
I mean, when people want to copy stuff that our amazing producer Anthony provides for us, then it just is a little it's a little odd,
Nah, I feel you. That's just white boy humor. I don't blame anyone. I get it.
But how we feeling? JMV, you feeling good?
I'm feeling good, bro. Noah's not cornerback 4. It's a good day. It's a good week.
It's the best for Juan. Juan's somewhere in like a freaking closet, having fun with himself. Nando, how you doing?
Whoa.
Hey, I'm feeling good, man. Listen, I'm happy football's back, preseason or not, and we got a win. A win is a win. A little good vibes for now.
Football's been back for a while. You guys you're in love with the wrong football. Jay?
I feel like kind of psychotic because I actually felt a lot of joy when they missed that kick. So I'm in a great mood.
I felt joy for so many different reasons. I felt joy because I could look at all the fans at my girlfriend's house and laugh at them because a kicker missed. So I felt joy for that reason. But I mean, I never laugh when a kicker misses because kickers are people too, and nobody seems to think so. So it is what it is. Anthony, I don't know if I asked you specifically how you're doing, but how are you feeling? How are you doing?
Man, I'm bored. I hate preseason. There's very few things I hate more. And unlike you, Boregalis is my dog, so it was sad to see him fail, but I guess the win feels good too.
I'm not even going front. When he was going to kick, I said I don't give a fuck about this game if he can make it. I don't want to see a kicker go down the wrong road. But when he missed, I got a lot of joy, so it is what
That's
it is.
Good. You should feel joy. You should feel joy when players do bad. That's just the greatest thing. We have a kicker who's like one of the best kickers in the league and was like the best kicker in the league as a rookie.
He back.
You're talking about McPherson?
Yeah. I'm talking about McPherson.
That guy's good.
Yeah. I'm talking about UF. It's okay.
Who's his
Florida
team?
Gators.
Oh, UF. Oh, I forgot.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
It's okay. We're irrelevant. UM's irrelevant. It is what it is.
Don't we play the Gators this year?
Nah, last time you guys played the Gators, you lost though. But
Damn.
to get to some Dolphins related content, I haven't been on stream like this in a while, so I'm firing as much as I can. But the Dolphins, held a preseason game. They beat the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. It was pretty ugly to start. The run game still needs a ton of improvement. We have some players that we do want to highlight and talk about. I know JMV, you've been chomping at the bit to talk about some guys, texting me like 15 times a day about it. Who are some guys that you came away with from the preseason game? Like, this is a guy that absolutely needs to make the 53.
Well, before we start that, let me just say, because I made a promise. If Lynn Bowden was going to have a good game, I had to give my guy Wevin a shout out. So I'm just putting that out there.
Not Wevin.
No way, bro.
No,
man.
Guys, bald, shut me up. It is what it is. Move on. No, but we had a couple of guys that played well. What's the corner that got Elijah Campbell? Elijah Campbell had a hell of a game. That guy was everywhere. He had a pick. I think he picked up a fumble or he forced a fumble.
I think he got a pick.
Yeah,
I believe.
He had the pick and then he had 2 pass breakups. It was Darius Hodge who forced the fumble.
And he picked it up.
Sam did, I think.
Sam
it was
Aguilar.
the greatest preseason player of all time, Sam Aguilar.
Mr. 4 sacks in preseason. I just want to say Austin Jackson looked well. Just going to put that out there. He wasn't a total disaster. He held his ground. And Solomon Kinley had some good reps in the third and fourth quarter. So we didn't get much of the first string offensive line, but that's a point of emphasis for all of us and the entire Miami Dolphins fan base. So it was nice to see those guys play well. We'll see in week 2 how they play.
Yeah, I mean, preseason is preseason. We talked about it in the pregame spaces. By the way, just as a plug for everybody here, obviously I know a lot of you are majority of the Heat content and bless of the Heat content of the basement, which is the best Heat content that is out there, by the way. Just, I might be a Heat hater, but I do love them still. It is the best content that you can find on the internet, probably just on TV anyways. But we will be having spaces for pregames, for pregame throughout the season, but we'll also be doing it for preseason. If we get to see the starters next game, we might have a halftime spaces. So make sure to tune in there because that'll be live from the basement. You'll be able to hear all of us. Nando, your takeaways from the first preseason game. Anybody that JMV did not mention that stuck out to you?
Yeah, that did not mention. I will go with Skylar Thompson. I mean, we got to give him credit at the end of the day. It seems like a boring answer, but I was excited to see him, and I thought he did pretty well. The pocket presence was there. I like the way he was able to tuck it and run. Got some yards in one of those plays, and just the ability to make plays also. I really like that. I was excited to watch him, so I'm glad. I was expecting that Teddy was going to play, and we are going to get a little Skylar, but I was happy to see the whole game. And then other than that, just Mike McDaniel, man, the way he approached the game. I mean, the fact that, we were playing third, fourth stringers, and we only ended up with 2 penalties to finish the game. That I think that has to do with coaching, man. He had these guys well disciplined, and normally when you're throwing third, fourth stringers, they rack up penalties left and right. So I was happy to see the approach, and I mean, I gotta piggyback a little bit and give Austin Jackson some credit. He did look all right, not great. I want to see more. But this is a start. I remember last year, everyone's pouring it on this man. So it's a little bit of positivity there, but I need to see it more. But I got to give him his credit there.
As long as nobody gives Noah any credit, where it will be good to go, because he was just getting burnt left and right. Jay, a player that neither of them mentioned that you're sitting there looking at and you're like, okay, this guy's got to make the 53, or just that impressed you.
I really like Duke Riley. I thought he stood out and was kind of the odd man out in a positive way, in terms of it kind of looked like he was a step ahead of everyone and he probably didn't even need to be playing. I thought at the inside linebacker position, especially after he left the game, the tackling really suffered, and he was always the first one to the ball. And I just thought, like, when he was in the game, he was always around the ball. He was a great tackler. I also want to shout out another inside linebacker in Channing Tindall. Obviously, he didn't play that much. I think it was like 25 defensive reps. But when he was on the field, man, especially on that third down play, he makes a crazy break on the ball. It's a nice tackle to force the defense off the field and get the other team to punt. He just flashed his athleticism, his elite closing speed. I mean, like, when you see him flash that speed, it's crazy to see. And I think he's a guy who you could see on the field in terms of, for specific downs and in specific situations, you could see him actually make an impact in his rookie year. So it was really cool to see that. He was also wearing the green dot as a rookie, which obviously is a preseason game, is third and fourth stringers, but that's still a very interesting thing, at least for me to see. But I really enjoyed Channing Tindall, and obviously I thought Duke Riley just stood out in terms of he probably shouldn't even had to have played.
All right. And anybody that stuck out to you that wasn't mentioned at all? Shout out to Threat, by the way. Shout out to
first
everybody.
Shout out to Threat, man. Everyone in the basement for tuning in. I could honestly not care less about preseason, so I really just want to give a shout out.
Come on, anybody that you're just like.
Listen, I understand we're doing like a reaction show, so I'm not just gonna sit there with that. But first and foremost, I do want to give a prayers up for Trill Williams. Obviously, I really like that guy. I think he was showing a lot of promises, and it just sucks anytime you see anybody get hurt, especially that late in a preseason game. Partly that sucks because Noah Igbenactive is one of the worst players I've ever seen, and Trill Williams obviously might have got some of his reps, so that might mean we see more Noah Igbenactive, because the dude was a first-round pick who can't play. Could have had Jonathan Taylor. I cry about it every day. But anyways, no one specifically really stood out because we didn't really see too many people play. I guess Cedric Wilson got some nice run early. That was fun for Dolphins fans to see something different. And I did like what Nando said about the O-line. Not too many penalties there. And Mike McDaniel seemed to have a decent first game. He iced the kicker. That worked, I guess. So shout out to Mike McDaniel for getting his first win.
Shout out Jason Sanders.
Yep, 4 for 4.
Motherfucker.
Damn.
Anyways, my player that I wanted to chat shit about is Jason Sanders. Because everybody, including Threat, including Kendall, including Royal's not even a freaking Dolphins fan, and he had shit to say. Juan, everyone last year, a part of a different network while we were there, continued to clamor and pound the table about how bad Jason Sanders was. And what did I tell each and every one of them? It's been a bad year for kickers, besides, the greatest kicker that's in the league right now, Evan McPherson. But it's been a bad year for kickers, and everyone was having a rough time. They said, no, Jason Sanders is trash. He needs to pick it up. I am a for the brand person.
I think his placeholder last year had a lot to do with that as well.
You're preaching to the choir. JMV, I love you so much for that, because I felt like a madman screaming at the sky. But he looked back to being the Jason Sanders that got the contract he got, back to being the Jason Sanders that finally brought some stability to the kicker position. No more were we seeing, oh God, he went to RPI, which is my girlfriend's school, and I can't remember his name. So I will find it so I can make fun of him. But no more seeing random kickers that we didn't even need anymore. No more of kickers coming here from a year being great and then double doinking for the Bears. Stability. And you know what? At the end of the day, when you need a field goal, you're going to look at that kicker and make that. Jason Sanders will make it. So shout out to Jason Sanders. That, I love him. Dear to my heart. Very dear to my heart.
Cody Parkey, by the way, is I think the guy you're talking about.
Cody Parkey is the second guy. The first guy, for whatever reason.
Who? Andrew
Franks. Yeah.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Andrew Franks. You see, the bad kicking. And now we might have like a subpar punter who was a good punter before, but, punting it for the Dolphins is just going to be bad. So I guess it is what it is right now. But
bring back Brandon Fields, man.
He's missed.
We could have drafted the punt god who, had an 82-yard punt.
Both you and I were preaching for him last year.
Oh, I was preaching to draft him in the third round. Everyone called me crazy. All of a sudden, he goes to the Bills, and now people are pissed off.
Mm-hmm.
It is what it is. We could have gotten the punt god, but, it's such as life. Is there anything else just about the preseason game before I start going into something that's a little more toxic that anyone has to say, or can we just wipe away the practice game?
Well, is anybody concerned about the run game, or we could just let that be honest?
Not yet. I want to see the first string off the line.
I mean,
I get concerned with the run game.
We're assuming Miles is getting cut,
right?
Sony Michel might stay there.
Anyways,
what'd you say? I'm sorry.
Savon Ahmed is not going to get much playing time anyways. I want to see the first string with I don't want to see Mostert. Put him in bubble wrap, but with Chase Edmonds back there and Sony Mitchell, and then we can get a picture about everything.
Yeah, you're also missing Connor Williams and Teron Armstead, who are probably your two best run blockers, so that makes sense too. The red zone offense was also a little concerning, but again, I doubt McDaniel's putting his good stuff on tape, so obviously it's something you notice, but it's not something I don't think you're worried about it yet. If we see it later, then we'll have to revisit the conversation.
That's fair enough. I just want to throw it out there. Are you guys mad that Connor Williams didn't get any reps, or you okay with that?
I wanted to see him.
I was mad that the starters didn't play.
Oh, I didn't want the starters to play.
I wanted them to play. I wanted Tua to go throw 40 passes.
Damn.
You wild.
I wanted to see Connor Williams out there because regardless if Tua was playing or not, I mean, he needs to get those snapping issues fixed. And you know how, Tua's durability could be. So it would help even if it's Skylar Thompson back there. Just get a couple reps in, one series or two. So I was kind of bummed out about that.
I agree for sure.
A quick follow-up question to that, and then I guess anybody could jump in here, but it's more so for you, Nando. Do you think that there is that slight chance that we do see Dieter back at starting center, and then this whole experiment with Connor Williams at center just goes away and he ends up playing guard?
I think we might. Honestly, if the snapping issues continue to be a problem, that might be the fallback option that's best, because signing another guy and getting him in here, it's going to be late to establish any type of chemistry. So you might have to go with Dieter there and then sliding him to guard. And it might be the best thing to do, honestly. But, I mean, let's see how it goes. Let's see.
Yeah. So to get into some more, and I'll lead this off to Ant first, just because I think he has more of a middle view about this stuff than the four of us. I could be wrong, but I do want to get his perspective on it. Tua, didn't have a great day today. He's had some good days. He's had some bad days. According to Juanathan Cardona and others, his bad days are the only things that matter. According to, I would say, JMV and some other people, you should take both of them for what they are. But at the same time, we are talking about practice, and when week 1 starts, that's essentially when we'll probably see it. How much stock, Ant, do you put into the bad days of Tua compared to the good days?
Literally none. Like literally none. Again, I like how you said I try to stay in the middle. It's not that. It's just I understand it's a very long season, so I try not to overreact, especially in these games that don't matter. Because who's to say that he's having bad practice just because our defense is that good? And now all of a sudden that's a positive. And then when he could go out there in the preseason and ball out. I don't even care about the preseason as much. There's too many variables. There's too many non-starters on our team, too many non-starters on the other team. So I put very, very little stock into practice and only slightly more into preseason just because there's so many variables, like I said. What I want to see Tua is I want to see him get out there the first week of the regular season versus New England Patriots and show everybody that Mac Jones is the most overhyped player of all time, and I want him to absolutely dominate him. I don't think we're necessarily going to see it. I hope so. But I really don't put too much stock into practice just because there's too many different variables. I do believe in him, though. So, and I do think he needs to get some snaps in the preseason. I know Mike McDaniel was still non-committal on that, but he needs to get some run just because we haven't seen really anything from him yet.
It would have to be this weekend, right? You're not going to play him in the third game.
No,
I mean, they have the bye week after that, too. So I would play him in both. They don't play 4 games no more. I certainly would play him in both.
He's not going to play week 3. I'll guarantee that.
Yeah, I don't think there's a shot. Did they, obviously now with 4 games, it's different because, before you'd have kind of one, just a snap or two would be a little bit, then, the third game would be like 3 quarters. And the 4th game is just those guys that might get cut. We went to the 3 preseason games last year. Does anyone remember any of the trends that happened? Nando, Jay, any of you guys remember kind of some of the trends that were happening with starters?
Tua played a drive against the Bears. Week 2 against the Falcons, he played a whole half. Week 3, he didn't play at all. Yep. That's the trend of every team, except the first game. It's pick your poison if you want to play your starting quarterback or not in the first game. We chose not to. And just to add on to what Ant was saying with Tua's bad days, based on everything we read, Miami was trying to test the waters into how aggressive they can actually be and what throws Tua can and can't make. Oh, not just Tua, all 3 of our quarterbacks. So I don't put much stock into him throwing 3 picks. Practice is the time to do that. See how aggressive you can actually be, how tight you can throw into a window, et cetera, et cetera.
All right. I think that the reason why I asked that, and then I'll propose the other question to Nando and Jay here, and I'll start with you, Jay. The reason I asked that question is just because I feel that there is such a focus on, I guess, each leaning of the line. The people that lean all the way to one side are very heavy on, oh, look at that bad pass. The other people that lean, it's very, I can't remember the word that politics uses, but it's very leaning too much to one side. So with that being said, do you put anything into the days where we're seeing the social media clips, we're seeing Tyreek Hill get the bombs, we're seeing all these things? Do you put more stock in that, or is it similar where it's just like, we just want to see Tua produce?
It's similar because I think if you're taking one or the other, that's very, very non-intelligent because that means you're picking and choosing, which obviously that doesn't make any sense if it's the same scenario in training camp. So I think if you're going to care about one a lot, you have to care about the other a lot. But I don't even think that's the way to go either. I think the way to go is you're taking note of it, but you're not really putting any real stock into it just because it's training camp at the end of the day. It's against your own team. It's in your own environment. Like Ant was talking about, there's not a lot of variables. Obviously, he was talking about that from a standpoint of preseason, but it remains the same for training camp. I think you have to take it with a grain of salt. And I do think, as a fan, you're going to get hyped for the good days, which is fine. But I don't think as, a person who wants to analyze the game, you're not putting any real stock into it. Obviously, the fan gets out of you and you want to be excited. But I don't think there's any reason to be frustrated or even concerned about him having a bad day. To be honest, it would be a little bit concerning if he never had a bad day because then I would be a little worried about the information we're getting if it's real because there's no way he goes a whole training camp without throwing an interception. There's no way he goes a whole training camp being absolutely perfect because then he's going to the Hall of Fame. So you would expect him to have bad days. You'd expect him to try and, like JMV was talking about, you want to see what he can do, what he can't do. This is the time for him to check and see what he can get away with and what he can't. So there's no real reason to put any stock into it. I feel like if you are, just be ready to be fooled because it's training camp. Like, I don't know how much you can take from practice against your own team. And even preseason, you can take more from it because it is more of a game-like scenario. But even that, it's like if a guy struggles in a preseason game, there's still so many different variables that are within that game that, let's say a guy who we all think is fantastic struggles in a preseason game. We're not going to be like, oh, he sucked in preseason, I'm worried about him now. So you take it with a grain of salt, and there's no real reason to be concerned.
Nando, any thoughts?
No, yeah, I agree. You got to take it with a grain of salt, honestly. I mean, all the ups and downs in training camp, I think it's just crazy to think of it otherwise. But I'll tell you what, him going against the Bucs in the joint training camps, joint practices, I thought that was big time, because normally those type of things they're kind of harder than preseason games. At least it seems to be. They're a little bit less, lenient with what you could get away with there. So he showed a lot to me. If he was able to perform well, which I heard he did in both of those things, that's one thing that got me excited. But when you're going against your own team, I think you just got to take it with a grain of salt. Like, I want to see him perform at the end of the day in the regular season. I mean, all I'm expecting here throughout this whole preseason, it's not even like, wow, Tua did good, Tua did bad. I like that he did good against the joint practices, but I'm just looking at him just establishing the chemistry with all of the guys. Like, having that connection with Tyreek Hill, I think, is important. And also the new guys like Cedric Wilson and then Eric Ezukama as well. Things of that sort. That's what I'm looking for. Just building that chemistry. As far as performance goes, you just got to take it with a grain of salt.
I have to say this for Wevin, everyone's favorite Miami Dolphins fan here. You just completely forgot about our Lord and Savior, Lynn Bowden Jr.
Oh, man.
Come on now.
Shame on me.
No stock into Lynn Bowden. Realistically, I guess, because this should be a topic of conversation. I know dipping a little bit back into the first preseason game, but it's been a conversation throughout the offseason. It's been a conversation due to the fact that he and Tua share the same trainer and all of the antics that happen on social media with that, whether good or bad. Honestly, I think any PR is good PR, and I think people take it a little bit different than it should be. Do you put any stock into Lynn Bowden? Do you think it's just kind of a second, third stringers playing thing, and that's why he kind of shined?
I honestly, first of all, that double move was nice. I mean, the fact that he was able to get open on that was nice. I got to give him credit for that. And this is a guy who the pressure's on him. It was on him to ball out. Yeah, he was going against third stringers, but he put up some good numbers. He had a solid game, and it's something to build off. He did way better than Preston Williams. So he's already, at least we're talking about him in a positive way instead of getting rid of him. All he wants is a chance, and he's getting the chance. And can he build off that? We'll see, especially when he's going against tougher competition. But I think this weekend in particular is where I'm going to keep a close eye, and I'll answer that better probably on the next stream.
And you've been a little bit quiet. Anything on Lynn Bowden?
Well, I certainly like Lynn Bowden Jr. I know a lot of people weren't that high on him. I thought he was decent. I mean, the two long plays he had in the first game, he was almost too wide open. It looked like a lot of defensive breakdown in the coverage there. He did have a nice move too, I know, but I like Lynn Bowden certainly a lot more than Preston Williams, who has bricks for hands. I can't stand that dude. You can't drop every single pass that comes your way and then come out talking that they don't give you a chance. So that dude will 100% not be on the team. If Bowden can keep it up, he probably will be. And I hope he does, because, I mean, he did all he could to back it up in week one. So I like Lynn.
Anything else from anybody? Either I know JMV you touched on a little bit, but Jay, is there anything, I guess, more particular, just because it is, I guess, a topic of conversation?
I was just going to say whether you think he's upping his trade value or he wants to, or if he's making a dent to try and make the team. I think out of all the guys on the fringe of the roster, on the fringe of that 53-man roster limit, I think he did make the biggest dent out of all the players, which has to say something. Preseason does make a difference in terms of, again, whether he's upping his trade value to go and get on another team's 53-man roster, or he's trying to make this one. I think that they're, like, again, out of all the guys, and we mentioned Preston Williams, he's the guy who made the biggest dent in that.
Preston Williams got to be cut. I mean, no one's trading for him. I mean, Shaheem was traded for a 7th, and now he's on IR for the rest of the year all of a sudden. I mean, Preston's got to go, right?
Yeah, Preston's not making this team.
Goddamn Adam screwed us out of a 6th-round pick.
God, that 6th-round pick, it's going to be the next Tom Brady, honestly. 199. that, obviously I think late round picks are useful. You get the Tom Brady's, you get the ABs, you get the Le'Veon, although Le'Veon Bell I don't think was like a late round pick, but you get some of those guys.
The Miles Gaskins of the world.
Yeah, you get Miles Gaskin should definitely be compared to those. I mean, sometimes you use a first round pick on Noah Igbenogany and Austin Jackson in the same draft as drafting a quarterback who had to get hip replacement, So sometimes you have a rough draft. Sometimes you draft Jevon Holland. There are times where you do that. I want to dive just because I want to cut off just in a little bit here, probably in about another few minutes, but I do want to ask and pose a question about fantasy football. Just because I know most of us, well, I think, actually, am I the only one here that's in this league?
Yep. Or
besides Ant. Yeah, the newbies don't get invites. It's okay. Adam's thinking about doing it on ESPN, so the dictatorship continues. But, with everything happening with the Dolphins, with everything happening with fantasy football, I've had this conversation with JMB privately, but I'll pose it to everyone else first, and I'll go to you first, Ant. How do you feel about drafting any Dolphin players at all? Do you stay away from it? Do you stay towards it? And I guess just a general thing with people who are, fans of their favorite team. How do you feel about drafting those players?
It's funny you asked me that, and I'm gonna shout out my dad here because he's a huge diehard Dolphin fan. Was a kid in '72 when they went undefeated, so he's been a fan since. And he talks all the time about how depressing it is and such since Marino. But he does not play fantasy football at all. But every year since I grew up and started watching football, he tells me the same thing every year. He says, if you want to win your team, do not draft any Miami Dolphins. Year after year. Typically, I don't listen to him. I was taking Jarvis Landry a little bit for a few years. Had a couple nice ones, then screwed me a couple times. I like Jay Ajayi, and then I kind of stuck away from Dolphins since then because they haven't really had anybody. That being said, though, if Jaylen Waddle is there, especially since I think we're doing PPR, but if Jaylen Waddle is there, that is a dude I want on my team. I've been saying for a few streams now, I think he's going to have the better year than Tyreek Hill, just because we've seen Tua have the tendency to just target one guy, and that guy was Jaylen Waddle. And if he has the same tendency to not throw the ball deep, or if the offensive line is still iffy, he's going to have to do a lot of those dump offs, and that means that Jaylen Waddle is going to get a ton of touches. And with his speed, you never know what you can see. You can get maybe a 20-30 break, tackle, run every single game. So I think he's going to put up great numbers. That's the dude that I definitely want. And I also like taking the Dolphins defense if they're there later, just because you play the Jets twice. You play the Patriots twice, who I certainly don't think has that good of an offense. So I'll look at those two.
Nando?
Well, I think I love that Jaylen Waddle pick, by the way, especially since Tua already has established that chemistry. Best believe he's going to look his way. Obviously, he's going to try to feed Tyreek Hill a lot. That might be, if that goes wrong or he gets doubled, best believe he's going to somebody he knows he can rely on, Jaylen Waddle. So shout out to Ant for that. I definitely agree with that. As far as picking Dolphin players, man, I always just stay away from them. I don't know why. I feel like I'm jinxing it. No way do I want to lose in fantasy and the Dolphins lose. I'd rather just split them aside, try to get away from it. I did it a couple years with Jarvis Landry, not going to lie. That was fun. He has some good ones. I missed out on Jay Ajayi. But yeah, I usually pass on all the Dolphins. I remember a couple of my buddies were like, "Oh man, what you think about Myles Gaskin, man? Myles Gaskin." I was like, "Dude, what are you doing? Don't pick
maybe
Myles
last
Gaskin.
Year in like a 16-team league."
Yeah, and things like that. And that all these people, how you think Myles Gaskin's gonna do, man? I'm like, ass. Like, we're running back by committee at the end of the day. But I think Jaylen Waddle would be the guy that I would really target here. So I'm gonna go with a little boring answer and piggyback what Ant said. I think Jaylen Waddle is the real deal. Definitely stay away from Mike Gesicki as well.
Yeah, for sure you got to stay away from that. I do want to bring up a comment here and sorry to take a little bit of producer power there. And just to answer this, we are working on that. YouTube definitely, counters in how many watch hours you have and they count how many subscribers you have. So once we hit that 4,000 limit there for watch hours, once we're, already above 1,000 subscribers, then we'll be able to go in and have donations and such. So, make sure you come back and you'll be able to come around there. But of course, do share the video, whether that's on Twitter, whether that's on Facebook. A lot of Dolphins fans are old. They're on Facebook. Make sure you share it with them so that they can come and see and listen to us. And just, again, everything else is great here on the network. But Also, make sure to like the video. It helps a lot for the algorithm. It helps a lot for the watch time. So it's great. So please make sure to do that. The YouTube algorithm is crazy, but likes definitely help because it'll push it to more and more people and bigger audiences. So please definitely make sure to do that. We will get to both JMV and Jay. I'll give my opinion afterwards, and then we'll head out here. So JMV, your thoughts on drafting Dolphins players?
I tend to stay away from it, not because of anything, with the players that we've had in the past or whatever, but it's because once you're drafting in fantasy football, as a fan, the normal thing is to be a little biased. So when you start drafting players from your own team, you're going to reach on them. You're going to take you're going to take them a little earlier than you should. And that's why I tend to stay away from drafting the Dolphins. But in reality, it all depends on where they fall. Like, for example, last year I had Jaylen Waddle fall to the 11th round. And I think it was a 14-man league as a rookie. And that was the only time in my life I've ever drafted a Dolphins player, and it was a huge success for me. So it all depends where they fall, but I tend to stay away from it just because I don't want to be biased, reach a little early, and then it hurt me down the line.
Jay?
For me, I'm always drawn to them as a fan, but I will only pick them if they're actually good. So I think I got Jarvis a couple times. I actually do pick Jarvis a lot in the late rounds, like these last few years, just to have him on the team, just because it will be a part of my team name or something, just to waste a pick instead of getting some random player just to take a shot on. The one thing I will say is stay away from running backs. We're always a running back by committee, and drafting Miami Dolphins running backs before the Mike McDaniel tandem came in was already a good idea to stay away from them. Now with Mike McDaniel as the head coach, it's like we know from the 49ers, it can be any running back any given day who goes off for that team. So stay away from Dolphins running backs no matter what. There's so many reasons not to, or so many reasons to not draft them. So definitely don't do that. Obviously stay away from Mike Gesicki. I think I traded Ayuk and like something else for Waddle last year, which went great. So that was really fun. So the fan of me is always, I have no idea. It was like at the beginning of like the year or something before, like it was in like preseason or something. It was like a post-draft trade, something like that. I can't remember it, but it was something like that, which was like great for me. I love that as Ayuk was in the doghouse with Shanahan. But the only thing I would say is I'm always drawn to them. Obviously, I like seeing my players. Like when you have a guy like Waddle, who I really wanted to get, it's so much fun when you see him going off in real life and you have the extra juice of saying, oh, I got him on my fantasy team and he's on my team. So that's always fun. But obviously, because we're all scarred Dolphins fans, I tend to stay away from them as well, as much as I'm drawn to them.
Bro, now that we're in the fantasy thing, last year, bro, I felt like I had a full Alabama team. I was a Najee Harris, Damian Harris, Jerry Jeudy, Jaylen Waddle, Henry Ruggs, who that completely fucked me up on midseason. But and I had drafted Irv Smith Jr., but he tore his ACL.
So, as JMV knows, because we're in a league with a few of my friends, some of like only 2 of the 10 like people in the 10-team league know nothing about fantasy football. So those people will probably get screwed up a little bit, but I drafted like 4 Dolphins players, and I'm really not ashamed to say that. Now, one of them I already traded for a Gator, so it doesn't really matter. But I did draft Tyreek Hill over Jaylen Waddle when the time came. My idea was to try to double back, but my friend drafted Jaylen Waddle literally like the pick after I drafted Tyreek Hill, so it didn't work the way I wanted it to, although it looked like it was going to. I drafted Tyreek Hill in the second round. I am very high on getting Tyreek Hill. I just think that despite not having Patrick Mahomes, I think he'll still be a very, very integral part of this offense. I also drafted Chase Edmonds. Felt pretty good about that one. I know we're going to be running back by committee, but pass catching guy, I think that'd be great. I drafted Cedric Wilson, and there was someone else I drafted, but they're not even on my roster anymore, so it doesn't even matter.
You drafted Raheem Mostert, but you traded it. In a
drafted. Yeah, made a massive 3-team trade with JMV and one of my friends just so I could get Kadarius fucking Toney. So, it goes with that as well. I believe, Ed, correct me if I'm wrong, we're going to try to do some call-ins. Am I mistaken or am I correct?
I want to hear if we got people that want to share their thoughts, man, share how they feeling, their optimism, if they up, down. Yeah, we can open up the line right now.
So we'll open up the line. If anyone wants to call, Wevin, if you're here, I know you might be scared to introduce yourself to the class, but you should definitely come in and give a call. We're going to open it up here once Ant has the graphic ready, and we'll be able to have people call in and be able to come in and share your thoughts on what you think about really anything we talked about or anything with the Dolphins in general. It's a fun year. I'm gonna vamp a little bit while we wait, but it's a fun year. I'm ready for hopefully seeing something. There we go. You can call it now at 305-699-2045 if you want to come in and have your voice be heard. I'm sure we haven't, at least on the Dolphins side, tried this yet. So, Ed, could you break it down for anybody that might be listening?
Yeah, so basically, if y'all want to share your thoughts, if y'all hear us and y'all think we saying something dumb, or maybe you agree with us, I know we know Nando got a ton of fans in the comments. So if you want to call in and say what you agree with, go ahead and call the number down below. That's 305-699-2045. And I'm going to go ahead and screen the calls, and then we'll get you hooked up here to talk to these guys. And if the line is busy when you call, don't worry. You can just leave a voicemail, and that'll put you in the queue, and then we'll go ahead and get you in order if we get a couple people calling in at the same time.
You did that perfectly. I love the greatness that you did that in. I had another word, but listen,
I think people are depressed because we ain't got no callers, man.
I wouldn't want to call about the Dolphins either, but we are, do have to build everything up and get everything going. Eventually, I think what we'll do is we'll try to do this in the next go around. Which
we'll promo in the tweet.
No one wants to talk about kickers and punters with us.
Dude, I do. I would love to talk about kickers and punters. Honestly, it's the greatest thing. If Royal was here right now, he would end the show just so I could not talk about kickers and punters. But if you've followed me at all on Twitter, I am a big for the brand person. There's videos of me kicking. There's video I am obsessed with all of that stuff. So, kicking is harder than people think it is. But you think that you can just kick a 50-yard field goal? Go try. It is not easy.
So kicking that 25-yard field goal, is that because people won't be able to?
Well, I have really strong legs. And if you've played soccer, I don't know if anyone here has ever played soccer, but if you played soccer, it does make it easier because soccer kicking kind of similar situation. So depends on how that goes. But we will wrap it up there. We'll end it off here just so we can get out of here within a reasonable time limit to talk about the preseason and everything else that we discussed. Thank you to everybody and anybody that came out. Make sure that you like the video and make sure you check out our sponsor. Let's put that up just one more time so we can give them another shout out. Please, please, please make sure you check them out as well, as they are the main sponsor here. That is Simple Health Advisors, CFIA. Don't make everything complicated. As one person who was having insurance complications just a year ago, you don't want to be dealing with that. It is not fun, especially if you get into a car crash, especially if there's other issues with other things. You want to have things be simple. You want to make it easy so that you're not stressing out. Call them at 321-345-7738 or email them at jpu@simplehealthadvisors.com. Boys, thank you so much for coming out with me today. Thanks to everyone else. The number 19 is no longer cursed. That's why 19 is my best friend. Let's just play the video. Let's get out of here.
Let's do it.
Come on!